Hello everybody, today we are going to solve the paper 2 multiple choice examination question paper February-March 2025 variant 2. So let us start our exam. Question number 1 is telling you in question number 1 the relation of 4 species of bacteria B, Q and R and S were compared. Species B and Q have a more recent common ancestor than either species has with species R. Okay, so he's telling you that species B and species Q they are more closely related. They share a more common recent ancestor, okay, compared to species R. Now he's telling you which species has least similar base sequence in their DNA compared to the other 3 species of bacteria. Now let us read the second point. It's telling you here species S, okay, is developed recently from species B, meaning that by far or by near there is a relationship between B, Q and S, but there is no any relationship between R and B and Q and S. So basically the answer will be R, because R it is only the one that does not have anything which has been developed recently from either B, Q or S. So the answer here for this question is letter C, which is R. Now the diagram shows an arthropods. To which group does it belong? Okay, so basically it's arachnids, and let us understand why. Basically, if you just refer here back to our notes, in here you can find that the arachnids, okay, they have 8 legs, right, and 2 body parts and no antenna, right? Okay, so basically let us count the legs with each other so that we can just verify. Here is 1, here is 2, here is 3, here is 4, here is 5, 6, 7, 8 legs. So basically now we have our 8 legs, right, and we have no antenna. Now moving on to the next idea that you can identify it very easily without even just memorizing any features. As you can see here in arthropod, the first letter starts with an A, and arachnids, the first letter also starts with an A. So basically both are starting with an A, so just you can identify it very easily by this way. Now moving on to the basic questions. Which structures are found in both plant cells and bacterial cells? So both plant cells and bacterial cells, of course, they will share a cell membrane. They will share a cell wall, because plant have cellulose cell wall and bacterial cells have peptidoglycan cell wall. Plasmids, of course, will not, because bacterial cells are the ones which have plasmids, and we will find that in question number 40 in this exam paper. So basically plasmids are only found in bacterial cells for genetic modification and other purposes. Now ribosomes, of course, it's found in plant cells and bacterial cells. You know, these dark spots in any microscopic graph picture in any plant cell or bacterial cell or even animal cell, you will find these small spots which are actually the ribosomes. So basically the answer will be D. Now in this question, it's very really basic. If you just know the formula, it's telling you a cell is 65 micrometer across. What is the measurement in millimeter? So converting from a smaller unit to a larger unit, which smaller is micrometer and a larger unit which is millimeter. Now we're gonna divide by 1000. So basically 65 divided by 1000 is equal to 0.065 millimeters. Okay, now moving on to the next question. Now that seems a little bit having an idea. Question number 5 is telling you diagram show 4 mesophyll cells which are W, X, Y and Z. Which arrows show the direction of movement of water through these cells? Basically they will be by osmosis. So we need to retain the definition of osmosis. It was the movement of water from a higher water potential to a lower water potential. You will tell me, okay, higher water potential meaning that I'm talking positively, right? So like for example, if I'm having 10, I'm having 5. So water will move from 10 kBA to 5 kBA. Similarly, you're gonna apply that knowledge in the same as here. So basically the answer is B, because option B has W being the highest water potential, because it is the least number in negative. Like if, for example, if I'm having negative 600 and negative 350, which is higher? Like without you discard the water potential idea, which is higher? Of course negative 350 is higher than negative 600 in terms of positiveness, in terms of who is more positive, who is more closer to the zero. Okay, so basically negative 350 will be more closer. Now then it will be lower water potential, so negative 400, negative 450 is a negative 600. Remember it always with the idea that I'm reversing, I'm reversing when a negative sign has been placed. I'm reversing my idea of what is high and what is low, because I know that what is high will be the lowest number in the negative condition, and what is low, water potential, will be the highest in what will be the highest in the water potential, in the negative condition of water potential. Okay, that's it all about this question. Now moving on, question number 6 is telling you here which can involve active transport. It will be 1, 2 and 3, because active transport involve a membrane and it need protein carriers. As you just can refer to the definition, you will find that active transport need protein carriers, which are protein channels, which are protein carriers. Okay, now ions are taken up by root hair cells. Yes, that's true. Again, it's the concentration gradient using ATP, which had been released from respiration as per your notes. Now moving on to question 7, which have an idea. A section of chromosome contains 4500 bases, and these there are 1450 G bases. How many adenine bases are there? Basically, of course, if I am telling you that there is a G base, of course it has been first bounded by a cytosine. So cytosine was guanine, meaning that 1450, it should be multiplied by 2. It should be multiplied by 2. So it will be 2900, and then you have a total of 4500. So 4500 minus 2900 is equal to 1600 base. So this 1600 base, it is not only adenine. Well, it is adenine bounded with what? Binded with thymine. Because as you know that adenine does not come alone. Adenine always binds with a thymine. So basically that 1600 is both adenine and thymine. But if I want only adenine as the question wants, so this 1600 will be divided by 2, giving you 800 adenine bases. Moving on to question 8, which chemical element is found in proteins but not in carbohydrates? As you can see, in carbohydrates we have carbon, hydrogen and oxygen, but we does not have nitrogen. We don't have nitrogen. Nitrogen is only found in proteins, which is not the case in this question. Question number 9 is telling you here what describes an enzyme. Enzymes are carbohydrates? No, enzymes are proteins, and not all proteins and not all enzymes are proteins. An enzyme decreases the rate of reaction. No, it increases it. Enzyme has the same shape of active site as their substrate. No, of course no. Not always. They might be complementary or not complementary. It's not always the same shape. Enzymes are involved in metabolic reactions, of course, like respiration. Now moving on to question 10, it's telling you the graph shows how the rate of photosynthesis and the rate of respiration in a plant changed over a 24-hour period. Which graph show the correct rate of photosynthesis and rate of respiration? Of course, photosynthesis will be the graph which in this color, in this line. Basically, because as you can see, like now, this is AM, okay? And now that is what? That is BM. So basically the rate of photosynthesis will start to increase and then decrease at night, because in the morning the plant is carrying out photosynthesis to survive, to make starch and to produce its own food. Now for respiration, it does not work like this way. Like respiration is continuous throughout the whole day. When I am seeing, like just this is a tip for you students so that you can understand this question. When I never see such a graph looking like this, meaning that the rate of respiration, it is continuous throughout the whole day. It does not stop or it does not decrease or increase as long as the plant is alive. So basically, as you can see, looking into the graph, starting from 0 hour, which is in the morning, which is 12 o'clock in the AM, to 24 hours, which is 12 p.m. From the morning to the night, the respiration rate has not decreased or increased to an extent that is compared to photosynthesis. So always we want to understand that respiration is occurring all time, at all times, to generate ATP, to allow the plant to carry out other processes like for example active transport in the root hair cells and so on. Now moving on to question number 11. It's telling you here, the photomicrograph shows part of the lower surface of a leaf, okay, and is also telling you here what is the structure of labeled X. What is the structure labeled X? Basically labeled X, as you can see here in this diagram, as you can see here, labeled X is your guard cell. As you can see that the arrow is pointing there. Yup, right there. So this is what, this is the guard cell. So the answer is letter A. Now moving on to the next question. A student is told that their diet is not balanced. Why? And they might be at risk of developing scurvy. So basically scurvy, just refer to your human nutrition lesson and you will find that scurvy is directly linked to vitamin C. So a deficiency in vitamin C, meaning that you need more what? You need more vitamin C rich food like lemon, orange, and so on. So basically the student should eat more citrus fruit like lemon, orange, and like for example any citrus other fruits to produce and provide him vitamin C. Okay, now moving on to question 13, which is really basic and very easy. The diagram shows the 4 types of human tooth. Okay, now it's telling you that which teeth are used for grinding the food. Grinding the food is of course premolar and molar. And how can I remember them? Basically I can remember them by the word molar. So anything like molar is a brother and it has another brother which is premolar. So both are brothers in what? In grinding and crushing food. And even if you don't know it, here is the notes for you to understand and know it. Incisors are chisel shaped for biting and cutting, while the canines are for what? Are for tearing, holding, and biting. Okay, so basically it's not about grinding anyway, but premolars and molars, they are for chewing and grinding up the food. Okay, now question 14 is telling you here which substances causes a change in a pH when the food enters a small intestine. Is a man, the examiner here, it was very basic with his answer, with his question. He told you in the small intestine. So let us look to the choices. Now in amylase, well, amylase is released in the mouth, nothing to do with the small intestine or the abdomen part. Trypsin is in the duodenum, does not have to do with the small intestine. Gastric juice is in the stomach and nothing to do with the small intestine. So only the basic which one is working in the small intestine is bile. And bile is used to emulsify the fats, breaking down large fat droplets into smaller fat droplets for them to get easily absorbed into the lacteal system. So now 15, question 15, which conditions causes the highest rate of respiration? So of course high temperature, high wind speed, and low humidity. And when I say low humidity, I mean that the concentration of water vapor molecules present on the leaf itself, as illustrated in the diagram on the right side of the page, telling you that there is more evaporation occurring. More evaporation occurring, so more transpiration will occur. And now let us just explain it a little bit for you to understand. So basically if I have in this diagram little water molecules that are present on what? That are present on the surface. That are present on what? On the surface. So these are not present for them. So this gives a more gate for more water molecules on the surface of the leaf to evaporate, because nothing is blocking these water vapor molecules to evaporate from the surface of the leaf. I hope you just understood it and grasped the idea. Question 16, diagram shows a heart defect that some babies are born with. So babies in this, as you can see and illustrated in this diagram here, as we can see that there is a hole in the septum. There is what? There is a hole in a septum, and actually the answer to this question was repeated once in a paper 4, in a February March paper 4, so just in case you don't know about it at all, so it has been repeated in a paper 4 before. So now, of course, what will explain this heart defect and what it causes the baby to have poor growth, because oxygenated blood will mix with the deoxygenated blood. And what I mean by oxygenated blood, so here will be your deoxygenated blood and here will be your oxygenated blood. So basically the deoxygenated blood will remix with the oxygenated blood, causing what to occur? Causing less oxygen to reach other body parts. To reach what? To reach other body parts. So causing less respiration and less energy and less contraction of muscles, and everything will decrease. Energy levels will decrease. Maybe he will not be able to move and walk and other things that are common. Now question 17, the diagram shows the effect of variation on the human body. These components in the diagram are represented by numbers. Now, which components are memory cells? Basically, memory cells are the ones that provide long-term immunity. And when you can say and you can even remember the two words together, like memory. So I'm memorizing a thing. I want that thing to last a long time with me. Like I'm learning, for example, ABC. So I store that in my long memory. So basically, ABC was used every day. I'm gonna write it every day, right? So it will retain with me. ABC will be with me throughout my whole life because it has been entered into what, into my long memory. Remember this with the same concept. Memory cells are the ones who provide long-term immunity. Why not two? Because passive immunity is not providing you with memory cells. Active immunity is the one that only providing you with memory cells. Now number 18. What helps to keep the prevent trachea open during breathing? To keep trachea open during breathing is your cartilage. And another info for you is preventing trachea from collapsing, which is also the cartilage. Cilia is used to beat the mucus out of your lungs back to the throat to be swallowed and killed by the stomach. External intercostal muscles, are they contracting or relaxing in either cases of either inspiration or exhalation, which is not our case. Larynx is your voice box, which is not at all here about trachea during breathing. Now, question number 19. Yeast can respire aerobically and anaerobically, and as you can see in the diagram I had put it list for you here, we can see that there is anaerobic and there is aerobic respiration. For each molecule of glucose used in yeast, how many more molecules of carbon dioxide gas are reduced by the aerobic respiration compared with the anaerobic respiration? So basically it will be 4 more. Basically, as you can see here, in this we have 2 carbon dioxide molecules in the anaerobic, and in the aerobic side we have what? We have 6 carbon dioxide molecules. So basically 6 minus 2 is equal to 4. So we have 4 more molecules in the aerobic respiration side. And he told you here, the examiner, are reduced by aerobic respiration first compared with anaerobic respiration. So always the answer will be in positive side, not in negative side, because you will start with aerobic first. So 6, which is the aerobic side, 6 carbon dioxide molecules in the aerobic side minus 2 carbon dioxide molecules in the anaerobic side is equal to 4 more carbon dioxide molecules, and I hope that it is made more clear. Now, in a healthy man, in which blood vessel you would find the lowest concentration of urea? Of course, it will be the renal vein, because renal vein, basically, as you know, it contains deoxygenated blood, and the renal artery contains oxygenated blood. And now also let us see it here, the diagram I had listed for you. Now, renal vein, here in the renal vein, and when I'm talking about renal, I'm talking about the kidneys. So renal artery, of course it will contain more deoxygenated blood, and the renal vein will contain less oxygenated blood and less nutrient containing content. So basically, of course, it will be renal vein as your answer. Now, this question is just basically memorization. It's telling you a specific eye condition can cause permanent contraction of the ciliary muscles. It's telling you here, now it's telling you which row is correct for an eye with this condition compared to an eye without this condition. So what is the condition? The condition is a permanent contraction, meaning that the ciliary muscles will be contraction. So I'm gonna reverse my mind and go to the suspensory ligaments. And as I can refer to that table, ciliary muscles, if they are contracted, my suspensory ligaments in here will be slackened. So basically here it will be slackened. And my lenses will be what? Will be fatter. So it will be fatter. So more refraction of light, of course, because more fat, so more refraction of light. You can remember it by this method. Now, question 22. The liver and the pancreas work together to control the concentration of glucose in the blood. Which statement is correct? Now, of course, this one is right. The liver converts small molecule glucose into large molecule glucagon. Yes, that's true. The liver releases hormone insulin. No. The pancreas does not respond. No, it responds. Now you will tell me why the answer is not A. Just read again the question. Just read the question again. It's telling you what? It's telling you how they work together to control the concentration of glucose. It does not have anything to do with what? With conversion of molecules to another molecules. No. It does not have anything to do with that. No. So basically this A will be wrong. So only the pancreas respond to a fall by increasing release of the hormone glucagon. Okay, glucagon is the one that will be released because now your blood glucose concentration is low. So basically you need more glucagon to convert the glycogen to glucose to increase your blood glucose concentration and return that back to the set point. Now, question 23. In the dark, plant shoots grow upwards and root grow downwards. Basically, what causes these responses? Gravitropism, of course, because when the root grow downwards, it's gravitropism. But you will ask me, but why? We always said that plant shoots follow phototropism. In one case, which is when the plant is in a light condition. But in the question, it had made you it clear. It told you it is in the dark. So basically, the phototropism will only occur if the plant is placed in a light surrounding. Now question 24. Question 24. What is the reason? What is the reason why antibiotics should be used only when essential? Okay, so the answer here will be D, because easily you need it reduces natural selection of antibiotic resistant bacteria, right? So you should not use antibiotic for longer periods of time, because basically when you use it for a longer period of time, it like your body already had understood, okay, I am, like for example, if I'm a bacteria, okay, you're gonna take Panadol today, so okay, I'm ready for you, I'm ready for Panadol, I will resist Panadol already, I will not care for Panadol, and I don't care, I need a new drug now to affect me, because this Panadol I already had understood how it will kill me. This is the same idea you need to apply in this question. Okay, question 25, which describes self-pollination. Self-pollination, pollen, just memorize the definition, you're good to go. Pollen transferred from an anther to a stigma on a different flower on the same plant. Same plant. As long as it is the same plant, okay. Now, same species? No, it is the same plant. Same flower. Now it's telling you from anther of a stigma of the same flower. Okay, so same flower which is also present in the same plant. This is right and this is right. But same species? No, not always same species. It can be a different species. Okay. Now, moving on to the next question. The list show terms used when describing sexual reproduction. Which terms are used only when describing sexual reproduction in plants? So basically, male gametes is human, and ovule is in the plant, ovary is in the female, filament is in the plant, fertilization is in the human, haploid and diploid are in the human. When I say haploid, half set of chromosome, and diploid, full set of chromosome. So basically, only 3 and 5 is the correct answer. Question 27 is telling you here, is talking about the menstrual cycle, and told you the answer LH, which is the luteinizing hormone, causes and stimulates the release of an egg on day 14, which is ovulation. Let us check the graph on the last page. As you can see here on the graph, the 14 days which are for ovulation. Now let us trace the graph up. So basically it is where the luteinizing hormone is basically the highest. Luteinizing hormone reaches the peak. It reaches the peak there. So basically luteinizing hormone will be what? Will be our highest main progress. Now, what is the main hormone responsible for the development of male secondary characteristics, sexual characteristics? Well, it is a testosterone, and I had actually mentioned that in a previous video before. So basically it is what? It is your testosterone. Now, which term is used and is defined as a length of DNA that codes for a protein? Of course, it's a gene, just something to memorize. Now, which statement about 6 chromosome is correct? Now, the examiner, he wanted to trick students. He's told you, okay, we know that 6 chromosomes, they are always carried on what? We know that it is always carried on the X chromosome, right? On what? On the X chromosome, isn't it? Of course. So, basing on this idea, he just made this question. So basically, B will be wrong and D will be wrong. But why C is not correct? Because as you know that, like the 6 linked characteristics, okay, or the 6 chromosome or 6 linked diseases, it affects both male and female. Like for example, there is a disease in A2 biology which is known as factor 8. Factor 8 hits boys and girls, men's and females. So basically, and it is carried on X chromosome because basically it's a 6 linked disease. So this is the main idea of question number 30. 31. Which graphs are 2 cells formed? Basically the highest mass and the last hours, the highest mass and at the latest stage. So basically the answer is D, and this question was repeated in a previous paper for, I think, February March 2024. It has been really same question had been repeated. Now question 32, which is really very basic in this paper, is telling you this person, a man, has blood group A, IAIO, and a woman has in blood group B, which is IBIO. Now when I had crossed these for you guys to understood it, we can find that the probability of having a group O is only 1 over 4, which is 0.25. So meaning that the answer for this question is letter B. Now moving on to the next question, and I had left it for you here just to understood it, and here's the diagram. I hope you see it clearly. What are sources of the genetic variation in populations? Of course, meiosis, mutation, random mating. Why B is incorrect? Because asexual reproduction is only for genetically identical, not genetically different. Mitosis, no, it should be meiosis. Mitosis, no, it should be meiosis. Now 34, of course, the energy in the lettuce comes from the sun. And as you can see here, the sun had hit the grass to provide the grass with energy for that to be passed to the mouse. And in this case, to be passed to the snail. 35, the process listed affect the concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Which ones increase the concentration of carbon dioxide? Of course, it is 1 and 4. Because cutting basically trees, you're cutting the trees, you are removing photosynthesis, meaning that there is nothing to take in the carbon dioxide, because we used to take carbon dioxide in by using photosynthesis, right? And question 4, letter number 4, increased fossil fuel combustion. Of course, this is true. Now, increased tree planting, no, that is incorrect. According to increasing carbon dioxide and decreased fossil fuel combustion is also incorrect. Now, question 36. Which organism can be source of energy for decomposers? Of course, decomposers just feed on the dead remain of animals, plants, and like to the end of life. So basically everything. So basically letter A is the answer. Now, it's telling you here, a coral reef contains species such as stony corals, sponges, seahorses, and whale sharks. These species interact with each other and okay, I had got my answer. He told you what? These species what? Interact with each other and are affected by the temperature, salt concentration, and oxygen concentration. So what I had drawn here for you, interacting with each other, which are the biotic factors which are living and abiotic factors which are non-living. So basically the answer will be B. Now moving on to question 38, what causes an increase in the size of a rabbit population? Rabbit population, of course, increase in available food so that they can eat more. Increasing in disease, it will decrease the population. Increasing in pollution, of course, it will decrease their population. And increase in predation, of course, it will decrease their population. Now question 39 relating to eutrophication is telling you what? Is telling you here, in this question, is telling you what? Is telling you how does eutrophication lead to the death of a fish. Basically, when I lower the oxygen concentration, slower respiration, slower metabolic reaction, so basically the fish will be still, stall, and will die. Now question 40, which cell structure makes bacteria useful in genetic modification? So basically in genetic modification, the plasmid is the one which is useful, and I had explained this for you in other previous paper which contains the October-November 2025 variant 1, the May-June 2025 variant 1, and May-June 2025 variant 2, and they are found in my channel. I will leave you a link in the description and on the end screen. So basically this is the end of the question paper for the paper 2 February-March 2025 variant 2 question paper, and I hope you had a nice time. Thank you for your time. Share, subscribe, like, and share it to other members of your friends or your school so that everyone can benefit, and meet you in a new video.